Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back with you, the Nader Narrative and Jersey First TV. We are celebrating good government today, and as many people say, politics is local. What does that mean? That means that the people you put in the positions of authority in your community will make a huge impact on how you experience your life, your quality of life on your street, in your schools, in your town halls. And we have two amazing men who have worked incredibly hard to create quite a great community in Florham Park, New Jersey. In fact, one of the best in the nation has been ranked many times as a great place to live. So I want to welcome to the show Mayor Mark Taylor and Council President Charlie Malone. Mark and Charlie, thank you for being on with me. Mark, we're going to start with you. There's so much to talk about. I do want to let people know that your background is deep. You know this town inside and out. And I was always impressed in talking to you that your family goes back so far in the town. But tell us a little bit about your resume as it relates to your service first to Florham Park.
Elizabeth, well, thank you for having me on, and thank you for having Charlie on as well. How long my service? Well, I've been a member of the council and now mayor, 10 years, 18 years on the council. A lifelong resident of the borough of Florham Park. My parents actually moved to Florham Park in 1952 and raised 5 children. Unfortunately, their very untimely death in 1984 left me stranded here, and I've never moved on. So I love our community. I love our town. I love to do what I do as mayor. I think that we've done a great job both on the next steps of Florham Park, the finance side of Florham Park, and how we're going to move into the next millennial or into the next couple of years, for sure.
Well, we're going to get into some of those achievements and plans and insight. You do have a passion for this town. I mean, the job of mayor is not high paying. Let's put it that way, as in
zero,
nothing.
as it were. Yes, zero. Yes.
You're also an experienced businessman. I know you're very successful in what you do on your day job. So it's sort of constant work for you, Mark, but you have such a passion for this community. And Charlie, you've been right there with him all along the way, really fighting hard and achieving great things. And I know you have a lot of pride for this town as well. Tell us about how long you've been serving.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and I appreciate being on as well. I was first appointed to the Borough Council in July of 2012 and subsequently ran for re-election. I ran opposed the past 2 election cycles. And I guess little known fact, in one of those years when I ran opposed, the money that I personally would have donated to my campaign, I instead gave to a Knights of Columbus charity, Bring a Hero Home, to foster Marines being brought home as well. So as you're saying, my ties here run deep and have a ton of pride for Florham Park. It's a great place to live.
And again, your day job, which is obviously very important. You're a finance guy in a lot of ways. You understand numbers. It's what you deal with every day. How important is that for the town of Florham Park?
Yes. In my daytime role, I am a fiduciary for a corporate retirement plan, which means I must act in the best interests of all retirees and plan participants, putting aside any external influences or my own influences. And that's really the same way that I approach the council role as well. We're with Mark out to do good and to do the right thing.
Well, both of you have incredibly high character. Just to let the audience know, in case they don't know this, both of you are up for re-election. June 6th, the June 6th is the election to decide who will continue to lead Florham Park. We want to talk about what you guys have achieved, but also make sure the record is straight about some issues out there that are sort of traveling around. I want to stay with the finances because this is probably one of the most important things when it comes to a well-run town is that you understand budgets, you understand what you have to do, sometimes make difficult decisions in order to balance those budgets, in order to keep taxes where they need to be. So Mayor Taylor, let's get into this a little bit. First of all, how have you achieved and maintained the second lowest property tax rate in Morris County? And I mean, that's amazing. How have you done that?
Well, I think it's an achievement amongst many. We have a very robust finance committee, including Charlie, who is the liaison and the chairman of our finance committee. We meet starting in October of every year and try and figure out where we're going to be, how we can start to pinpoint some projects, capital improvements, all the things that have to be done insofar as keeping the borough moving forward, reducing debt, being conservative, and making sure that the next 10 years are in our vision. A lot of towns, I think, look at a budget and they close it up and put it back in the drawer, and that's it for the next year. We have been analyzing throughout the year. When we are ready to do our budget cycle, we have another 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience that we're looking at to ensure that we're doing the right thing as we move forward into the next budget cycle. We've had some tough times. I was on the council in 08 through 10 when we had some very lean years. And I experienced that, and I used it and kept it in the back of my mind this whole time, because I think that we've crest another time when we're probably going to have some tough financial times. And when I say financial times, I mean when new ratables do not appear, budgets disappear. So we have to be very cautious and carry capital away in our reserves to be able to work through these times of difficult budgets.
So, Mayor, what you're saying, and Charlie, I'll move this question to you, but he's talking about being wise about finances. And it's something that, as we all look at our own finances, we're always should be pushing ourselves to do, right? We tell our children to do that. You have to be careful. You have to save for the future. You don't want to spend more than you make, and you always want to pay yourself a little bit, meaning put some money aside. These are very obviously tried and true financial tenets for our own personal lives. That should be the same when it comes to managing a town or a business, right? It's even more important.
Exactly.
So, Charlie, can you talk a little bit about balancing the need between keeping taxes low and delivering great services to all of the residents while planning for the unknown?
Sure. I think, as I said at a very well-attended town hall that Mark and I had last night, all towns have a scarcity problem. The definition of scarcity in economics is meeting unlimited needs and wants with limited means. Every town has that. We have a plethora of ideas from people as to where money should be spent, and we have to allocate the resources that we have the most appropriately. In doing so, it's important to maintain reserves, as Mark is alluding to. 60% of our $25 million budget I would deem as fixed revenues, property taxes that people must pay. The other 40% is variable revenues, grants, aid, state aid, UCC fees, hotel fees, interest income. These things can vary over time, and we need a base reserve in order to act as the shock absorber for when those variable revenues fluctuate. So it's a tough balancing act. There's certainly more that we can do. There's more that we're looking to do, but we're going to do it financially responsible too.
And that's the key.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to add to that, if fund balances were not available, we wouldn't be able to be bullish in this time frame and be able to invest our reserves to make interest-bearing monies to go back into the bottom of the budget. If a next generation or the next governing body came along and said, well, we're going to spend that reserve. Well, we have a AAA bond rating. We're one of 16 towns in New Jersey to have that accreditation. It's a very important one. It means that the taxpayer, the borough of Florham Park, is paying less on the bond issuance each time that we go out to borrow money. It means that we have a bigger clout when we go to bond something. In our last bonding, we had 6 bidders total, and the same person bid who bid the last time. That tells us that person is very, very at ease with our financial situation. And so was Moody's, who came back in 2014 and challenged our bond rating. Our bond rating was a AAA at the time. They wanted to knock us down to a AA2, and we had them in for a dog and pony show. Charlie was part of this. We did all the finances. We showed them all the pension liability that we have, which is really the outstanding issue in our budget that really makes or breaks whether you can have a AAA bond rating. So we did that whole dog and pony show. And then I borrowed a bus from the school and I took Moody's on a tour of Florham Park. Charlie was there as well. And we went around to all of the new things that we've done for the borough, the building that has gone on, and how our ratables will continue to thrive in Florham Park.
Amazing. So you literally took Moody's around to show them and impress upon them that what you've done in the past will continue, that this is a good investment, that this town is worth betting on. That can all change in a moment if the budgeting goes awry, if spending goes awry. What decisions we make yesterday are the decisions we live with today. So, Mayor, can you talk a little bit about the budgeting process? Because I think out there are some misnomers about what this all means and how this all works. A lot of people don't understand it. What do you want residents to understand about the budgeting process?
Well, I would say that reiterating something that Charlie said earlier, the needs and the wants are the issue. We start to meet in October timeframe to work on the following year's budget, and the realization really comes about when we start seeing that if we stayed without cutting X, Y, and Z from the budget, we'd have a 9 or a 13% increase in our taxes. The state of New Jersey allows a 2% cap for our budgets to be increased every year. So if we went outside the cap, we wouldn't be doing anyone. We'd be doing a misservice for everyone. So our job as a budget committee is to every year meet and do the very best conservative job that we can to cull our budgets back to a 2% maximum, and certainly less if we can. I would say to you that this past year, with increases in both our pensions, 14% for one and 18% for the police, we had a tough time. It's another $278,000 we had to put towards the bottom line. So I think that's a really impactful thing that people don't realize, that we're not only carrying the year's salaries and all the buildings and maintenance, we're also carrying all the potential pension liability as those who are on a pension and or are getting close to retirement retire.
Absolutely. Well, listen, basic economics is about choice. Budgeting is about choice. You cannot have it all. We know that personally. The same is true within a town budget like this. Charlie, another choice people are making, which is interesting, is to stay in Florham Park. The truth is, all of us in New Jersey understand there's this huge migration. Now, a lot has happened statewide over the last few years to make New Jersey kind of difficult to live in, but really a lot of times it comes down again to economics and many times to retirees. But you don't have that problem in Florham Park. Retirees are deciding to stay there. Why is that?
I think our low cost tax basis has a lot to do with that. Obviously, New Jersey is an expensive state to live in, but we're doing our best, as we've talked about, to keep taxes low, second lowest tax rate in Morris County. I think that allows people some flexibility and some choice as to what they do with their lives. Our three opposition candidates, one for mayor and two for council, are all retirees running against Mark and myself and actually advocating for spending more, reducing reserves. It would obviously crater our Moody's bond rating. Our borrowing costs would go higher. The downstream impact of that, it would add greater volatility to our taxes every year. The fact that retirees running against us are here in Florham Park and advocating for spending more, I take as a huge compliment to the past 10, 12 years that Mark and I have been at this.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I think, too, that it can't go unnoticed that keeping retirees, allowing them to be able to afford to stay in a community they love where they probably raise their children, increases the quality of life. Mark, you grew up here with your parents. They weren't forced to move. So again, investing in the future, investing in families, supporting families by having good government that isn't overspending. Now let's talk, Mayor, a little bit about another issue that's come up, which is recreation facilities. Again, this goes back to spending. I've always seen Florham Park as a great place to go in terms of recreation and choices and how well maintained it is. How do you feel about what you're doing in that arena?
Well, I feel very, very, very strongly that we have done the right thing for all of our residents and their children In fact, a parcel of property, which is 110 plus acres on Elm Street, was divided off by Route 24 and used to belong to the Exxon facility, which was on Park Avenue, has now been reassigned to the Rockefeller Group and has been redeveloped. That property was of no use to them. And in the negotiations of starting the other project, the Rockefeller Group donated that 110 acres to us. They were planning to build a 263,000 square foot building, Class A office building on that property, but we talked them through it and we got that land donated, 19 of which we made into a brand new park area, which I think is outstanding, state of the art with turf. The unfortunate aspect of it is that we had 5 people on our council all vote to do the funding of that project. One was a negative vote, and he is my opposition, Charlie Malone. He voted no at that time frame and then came to the open house when we finally cut the ribbon on the new field. And I said to him that day, what would possess you to come here? Well, I want to see everybody. And now in his campaign, he's running on the fact that the kids don't have a place to play and we need to build ball fields. So you can't have it both ways. If you had said back in the day that this is going to be great for our kids and we'll do it, it met with some opposition, quite a bit of opposition, and he sided with those who were opposing it. Now those people are praising all of us and their property values on that street, which have risen immensely over these 12 years since it's been completed. So I'm really quite happy that we have it. I'm quite happy that we have such great facilities for our children. And I think, yes, we could do more work. We're going to try to meet with all the groups, all baseball, football, soccer, lacrosse, and any other ancillary group to try and see what we can collectively come together with instead of, poking at the bear and saying that, well, he didn't do anything about me, pointing to me to say I didn't do anything about recreation in all my time. I have been a strong advocate for our children, and I think it's a worthwhile adventure to continue to build and fix up more fields for our kids.
Definitely. That has to be frustrating to hear that, knowing what you know about that process. Charlie, when it comes to how you determine where to spend money for recreation, for fields, what does that process look like? How do you do that? There was a moment or two where the residents can come in and talk about this. As Mark said, groups will approach you that feel that there is a need. If there's a particular sport that's growing now that doesn't have enough fields, talk to us a little bit about how you analyze those options.
Yeah, we meet with league presidents from time to time and are in tune with the needs of the people. We're hearing from some now on a little league level and a soccer level, and we're going to see what we can do about it. But we're going to make sure we do it financially responsible as well. The fields are one of the main reasons why I joined the Borough Council to begin with. That project that Mark talked about, known as Volunteers Park on Elm Street, was started, but we had a change of administrations to Mark in the middle of that project. Mark had to pick things up and move the ball forward. A council spot opened up, and I joined at that time after a resident's daughter stood up in the middle of a town meeting and said, we're playing and practicing on the same fields all the time. There's no area for this field to rest and recover. I took that as a sign for me as a coach at the time to say, this person had to go back to school. I don't. I can stay here and advocate for those fields as well. So we moved it forward, as Mark said, through legal challenges, environmental challenges. We had a lawsuit from the next lowest bidder on the project challenging the low bid. It was quite a gauntlet, and I think we're still pretty proud of that field and park, really first new park in decades in Florham Park. And we've gone on to do some others as well. So we're not stopping there.
Love it. Let's shift to related, but a little more intense, which is infrastructure. Because one of the ways, of course, you keep a town, at the highest level that you can for people's way of life and for what they experience is to continue to invest in infrastructure as necessary. I'm not sure the state of New Jersey is doing such a great job at that, but Florham Park, your infrastructure seems to be well in hand. Mayor, can you talk about the projects that you have overseen and what you're looking at in the future for infrastructure improvements?
I sure will. Very proud of the fact that during the prior mayor's administration under Scott Evelyn and myself as council president at the time, I was working on the planning board side and Scott was working with the developer. So we came together and we met with the Rockefeller Group, and we were able to get a donation of the former well that suited the Exxon facilities and their grounds. Now that facility was older. We just last year completed a $5 million pipe in system into our system, completely refab the building to which it was in with all new pumps and accessories, and put water into our system from that project. The good part about that water is it contains no manganese, which is a big issue in the other parts of our wells. So we're hoping with the mixtures of the well and the new wells, the new well, that it will help with the hard water situation in town. The next issue we face is our sewer plant. Our sewer plant in the next 5 years needs about $16 million of upgrades. Now that's due in part to the Superior Court's judgments against the Borough of Florham Park for low moderate income housing. I'm sure you want to talk about that later, but I will just say that the sewer plant's upgrades have all been itemized. We've put quotes together. We have bids ready. We are ready to move forward with that. We're waiting on a development that's been stalled to see where that project lies. As well, another note. We have two water spheres in town, and those are both in need of repair. They need to be painted. So we're working on a project to do that as well. Of course, they carry all of the police radios and all of the AT&T and Verizon and you name it, cell phone towers that are on there, and that will all have to be taken off when it's painted. So it's a very expensive, in the millions each project. So that's another capital project that we're trying to put to bed as well. And we'll have further news on that in the next couple of months.
Charlie, you want to talk about the roads a little bit and the investment in that? I saw some numbers that you guys are pretty aggressive about keeping your roads free of potholes and repaved. How important is that to you?
It's very important. We repave about $750,000 to $1 million worth of roads every year within our budget. It's a maintenance item that you don't want to slack off on, or you will wind up paying the price later, a lot larger price. So annually, through our borough engineer, we're identifying roads that are in need of repair and repaving up to $1 million worth of roads every year.
Amazing. Let's talk about businesses in Florham Park. So as a neighbor of yours, one of the things I love about Florham Park are all the choices of where I can spend my money. And I do spend a lot of money in Florham Park, guys. But it's a great business environment. From an outsider, it appears as though you've attracted a lot of services. Obviously, again, it raises the standard and quality of living. There also is the idea of rateables. So Mayor, I've seen a lot over the years. You've been at a lot of groundbreakings. You've been able to bring in businesses and offices and, done things with the Jets. And there's so much that's rich in the business environment in Florham Park. I'd like you to brag on that a little bit, please.
Well, I would say in the downtown, starting there first, we have been very fortunate in that all of the 4 centers, we'll call them, that are in our downtown in the last 10 years have all been revitalized, repaired, fixed. New buildings have come in. We're almost at 100% occupancy of our commercial retail spaces in the downtown. Why is that? Because we are about 11,600 who sleep in town at night, and we're like 30,000 post pandemic that come to town every day. We need to have facilities, places to eat, places to shop. And of course, we have some very good ones as well with Trader Joe's and King's in town as well. But on the commercial side, I've sat on the planning board for some 18 years now. I've seen many companies that wanted to come to Florham Park go to fruition and become an establishment here in Florham Park, including I sat on all of the meetings for the Jets to come, BASF Corporation with their North American headquarters, 2 hotels, including Ave Living. One I'm very proud of, which is a supportive housing project. That's for developmentally handicapped young adults and adults and it's owned by the United Way of Bergen County. Tom Toronto, very good friend, great guy, came to me with an idea through another friend, through a friend's daughter that I know, saying that you could put up this project and every bed will count towards your affordable housing stipulation from the courts. So we brought this to the council. The council unanimously voted to do this. It's been a great project for the town. It's 102 beds, as I said. Plus, we got 57 credits because of its use. So I think that aiding towards our affordable housing mandate has been a very good project. We also have the Del Webb's communities, and we have Riverbend and another community down on Passaic Avenue, which have really helped our community with new people coming into town. So I think that that we've really done a great job in hosting and attracting new business, commercial, and so forth.
Very pro business environment. And you touched on affordable housing. We're going to come back to that. It's a passion of yours.
Yes.
Charlie, I just want you to comment on the business environment, even just as a resident. How do you feel about the services you have around you and the choices and the strength of the business community?
Like Mark, I go back in town a generation or two here as well. To me, the intersection of Ridgedale and Columbia Turnpike was historically a crossroads. There's a book documenting the history of Florham Park called The Saga of a Crossroads, has a picture of that intersection from many, many years ago, and it looks quite different now. As a crossroads, Florham Park was a town that you passed through to go to someplace else. With all the new businesses in town, retail centers, that has grown up to be a destination and something we're really proud of. Prior to the pandemic, I started something along with our late borough clerk, Sheila Williams, something called Meet Me in FP. Meet Me in Florham Park was our slogan, our motto, to help support local businesses, drive businesses into town, and help small businesses. At the time, we had no idea what it would morph to. During the pandemic, Meet Me in FP really became a rallying cry to help our businesses that were suffering during the pandemic because of social distancing and measures requiring more space. Like we had talked about previously, we enabled some outdoor seating at a number of places, and we've gone on to really showcase those businesses, especially during the pandemic, to try to help them. They are there for us constantly. They're hit for donations by our local sports teams and things. And during the pandemic, it was up to us to return the favor, and many people did.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I hate talking about the pandemic because I feel like it might come back if I talk about it too much. But it is important to note the way you handled this. And I think in a time of pressure and challenge, that's when we see true leadership and true character. And I know, Mayor, that you were very concerned about all aspects of that, but you were especially supportive of the small businesses and trying to get creative with them to help them survive. And a huge majority of your businesses made it through. I don't have the numbers, and I don't know if you do, but overall in the state of New Jersey, we know a third of small businesses closed. It seems to me, just from observation, that very few of your small businesses closed. Somehow they made it through. What was that time like for you?
It started out very, very haphazardly. You'll remember, I remember it very well. March 14th was the day. Remember, Charlie? We opted to have a OEM meeting in our council chambers and just go over what we were thinking. But before that, I went to all the health clubs and assisted livings in town, and I said, "This thing is really coming down the tracks. What is your plan?" To each one of those populous peoples, or I should say, people were populating, to ensure that they had a plan moving forward into this pandemic. We fostered some great ideas to try and get people to dine outside and help to get businesses some sort of funding from either county or state governments. We worked to try and host things to make people come out and do some shopping. But the best thing I think we did is the leaders and the true heroes in this are our teachers and our superintendents. We barely missed a day in Florham Park schools, and I am so proud of Dr. Caponegro and all of his team. They did an awesome job. I actually thanked them this past September when they had their opening day. I went to their opening day at the auditorium and thanked each and every one of them, calling them out as they are the heroes of this whole pandemic. These children need leadership. These children need to be in school. They need to learn. And I think that they've been set back on their ear for, that 1.5 year period. But fortunately, they were in school, sometimes half day, sometimes full day, fortunately, finally without masks. So I'm very proud of all of the things that we did as a governing body. Our police department did. Our police chief, I can't thank Joe Orlando enough for all that he has done and did during that time frame. And I can't thank the schools enough for being supportive of our children.
The schools, what an important subject as well, Charlie. I'm sure you have a lot to say about the pandemic. I just want to say in general that impressive how you guys handled it. And again, in a time of crisis, that's when we see what a leader really is. And I believe you really proved, the ability that you have to rise to the challenge. Charlie, your school system, talk about that a little bit. Let's brag on that, because a good, strong school system is also a very heavy indicator of great leadership on the school board, great leadership in the council, and just overall the health of a community.
Yeah, I agree. To some extent, we can't take credit for that. That's the Board of Education. 60% of our tax dollars do go to schools in Florham Park. We have a shared high school, Florham Park East Hanover at Hanover Park. Florham Park residents pay our pro rata share of taxes at the high school level. I think overall our low tax base allows people for choice when it comes to education as well. High school is terrific. Hanover Park has done great. I've been blown away by the advancement in the number of AP classes and courses offered there when we took the tour with my kids. We ultimately chose private high school for our kids, but honestly, Florham Park's low tax dollars allowed us that personal choice. If taxes were higher, it would not be a choice. I think the tax rate allows individuals plenty of freedom and choice, not only in education, but in other aspects of their lives too.
I love that. That's great. Mayor, did you want to say something about the school systems before we move on?
I can't thank everyone involved. And it is the Board of Education that did all that.
Right.
Dr. Caponegro, John Satlos, Phil Infantolino, and Bill Heiler and I met on numerous occasions, whether that be by Zoom or in person, to just make sure we were all on the same page, doing the best that we could for our children. I think it's imperative that we help to keep them moving forward in their education value and as well in their life skills.
And if I could just add, I remember that Friday meeting during COVID, Office of Emergency Management meeting, which was led by Mark and our police chief, Joe Orlando. That was the start of numerous governor's executive orders that came through. Yeah. Many of them were not political and did not involve Mark in my doing. They were direct to the chief of police, and he executed them very, very well. Behind the scenes, I would say that Mark, myself, and a handful of others would meet periodically outdoors, socially distanced, away from Borough Hall. Sorry?
I brought the pizza.
Yeah. In order to keep things moving. And that worked very well. One of the earliest decisions we had in that Office of Emergency Management meeting involved the library. We had started talking about the library. They wanted to remain open. They thought that would be a terrific public service to everyone, a chance to read and socially distance. It worked well. We went around the room and we started closing things, closing ball fields, closing facilities, recreation facilities, seniors facilities. And I have to say, I came back to the library and said, if we're closing all these other things, why don't we close the library as well? It was met with great resistance. Mark pushed it forward. I think it was 2 weeks later, the director of library wrote to Mark, myself, and others and said, thank you. Thank you for making the tough decision, for protecting our residents and our staff. Yeah. And I thought that was a really important thing to note. It's a tough decision to make, but again, we're here to do the right thing.
Yeah,
I would like to add to that, though, in closing the parks, that was not the objective of either myself as mayor or Charlie as council. That was a state mandate. That was a state rule. I would have thought that the parks would be open, the kids would be able to get together and congregate, have fun, play, when it's been such a serious time for them. So
Yeah.
We
Oh, a lot.
advanced, I'm sorry, we advanced another park during the pandemic. We
Yeah.
worked on a park right behind Borough Hall, completely renovated tennis courts, added new lighting, added pickleball courts, new basketball court, completely resurfaced. We had to do the due diligence, the financial due diligence during the pandemic to say, is this the right thing to do? Can we afford to do this in a pandemic? And we forged ahead. I recall very well that Councilman Scott Carpenter said, we need to give people hope on the other side of this.
the other
We
end.
came through and we opened this park, and it was a really terrific thing.
I love that. I love that. Well, there was so much we didn't know and dictates that came from the state, and everyone did their best, but you guys definitely rose to the occasion. I want to talk about the police a little bit. We are going to get to affordable housing, but your police force is definitely respected, your police chief. Let's first talk about crime, Mayor. With all the crime rates that have been skyrocketing throughout the country and especially throughout New Jersey, how has Florham Park fared on that level?
We have a huge, robust plan from our chief on down in our police department. We have a great force of police officers and women officer as well. One we have. They've done a great job in monitoring, maintaining, going after things that are going on. You see these trends of people stealing cars throughout neighborhoods to get onto highways and drive away. They've done a very good job. In fact, they put some of those up on YouTube and Facebook to show the chases that they had done. Once the governor's office brought that back, I should say, they were, for a while there, they weren't allowed to do any chasing. Right. But I think that our crime rate is still very low. We do the right thing as far as, when officers are retiring, the chief is always working to bring back new as soon as he can through the academy, where other towns around us, one right to our east, to our west, they're down 6 officers. We're at the same level, 32 officers that we were pre-pandemic. And, certainly what will come in the future, we'll have to try and find the means to be able to afford it. It's something that, when you don't have the money and need the people, it just, sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, and this comes back to the balance, Charlie, right? Which is you can't have everything. There are choices and you have to figure out what is best for the community. And that process itself is not easy, but someone has to make that decision. Is it frustrating for you to hear everything being offered as though they're a buffet of choices with no consequences from your competitors?
Yes, that would certainly be challenging and is challenging.
Right.
We want to go about things in a financially responsible manner. From the police end of things, I have always been impressed with our police department, with our police chief, Joe Orlando, and the breadth of coverage that they have for a small town. Yeah. We have the New York Jets here. We have 2 universities, a highway. We're next door to an airport, a strong senior citizen presence, a lot of local youth events, a significant 4th of July parade. I believe that they come in every day ready to handle most anything, and I've always been impressed with them and what they have to do. That being said, we have to go about things in a financially responsible manner as well.
And yes. I would like, Mayor, for you to address the PBA contract. And there's a lot of misinformation out there about that process, about that result, about what you needed to do. Can you address that for everyone?
I sure can. We had 6 meetings with the PBA delegates. Bill Heiler, my business administrator, Scott Carpenter, liaison to the police, and myself, and our attorney as well. And we had 6 meetings. We tried to get through the budgeting process, I should say the contract process, in a smooth and equal manner for both parties, make it equal for both. We were not able to come to a mutual understanding. We had to go to arbitration, which was 2 very long all-day sessions for Bill Heiler, our business administrator. We finally came to an agreement which was mutually beneficial for both. And I would say to you that probably some are not happy. It's just that the finances are the finances, the pension liability, the health insurance, all the things that wrap around inside of that equal a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
So those things considered, we do have a great police force. I am enthralled with all of their action and their duty. They do a great job, but we have to be financially set to move into the next year and the next 5 years and the next 10 years. So
that's always a challenge. And Charlie, math is math, right? Math isn't, there's not new math, although some people say there is, but 1 + 1 = 2 every day, and it always will. So when it comes down to pure math and choices, you need to make the best decision for the citizens of Florham Park, right?
That's right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, let's talk about affordable housing. This is like a passion thing for you. Let's be honest, a lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand what this mandate is that's being put upon these towns. Some people know the history of it. You're navigating this. You and your team are really navigating this in order not to allow Florham Park to get hurt by these mandates. So let's educate people on it, tell them why it's an important issue and how you're managing it.
Well, I've been called everything from a scoundrel to an elitist on Facebook regarding it. I'm not against affordable housing. I'm not against giving someone the right to move to an area where they want to spend their next 10 years, 15 years, or bring up their children. I'm not against any of that. My issue is that overcrowding, building boxes in the ground to put buildings on top of, has caused flooding, infrastructure issues, police, fire, first aid issues, all those things that are the components of making up a town considerably have to grow to continue to build and build and build, notwithstanding the fact that people need a place to live. During the last round of affordable housing in 2015, our mandate was 1,082 units of affordable housing. Now that would equate to about 5,000 units with the 80%, which is at market rate, 20%, which is at affordable level. Our town cannot withstand that. So we were very fortunate in that we fought them a little bit in the courts, and we brought our mandate from 1,082 down to 645, which is still a huge number. But with credits that we had left over from the second round of affordable housing, the project that I told you about earlier, which is developmentally handicapped folks, 102 beds plus 57 credits, we're only building about 290, I believe, estimated number of affordable units. The rest are all at market rate. Now, why is it market rate that matters? Because the builders who own these properties become interveners in our court proceedings. Yeah. And when they intervene, they tell the judge what they're going to build and how much density it's going to have. I was just accused again this morning on Facebook of a project that's getting built on Columbia Turnpike and Hanover Road that is owned by a person that I know for my whole life. We went all through school. His family's owned this building. They, together with another family, the Wilfs, who are pretty wealthy of their own, are building condos on that property. Now, they went to the Superior Court. They didn't go to the Borough of Florham Park. They became an intervener. And an intervener has substantial rights to build outside the zoning to which the property is on. So they came back to the council, and all of the councilmen, including the man running against me, my opposition, Mr. Germerhausen, voted yes to change the zoning for that property to allow for this affordable housing. Now they say because he's my friend, I grew up with him, that I allowed him to just build it.
It's not how it works.
So far from the truth.
That's not how it works.
I have worked so hard to try and decrease the number of affordable units and market rate units in our town to make it so that our residents feel comfortable. Traffic, all of the infrastructure issues that we talk about, people coming and going that they don't necessarily think should be that much of a crowd of people. We do the right thing to try and do that for our people. And I have been at the forefront working on this. I'm also a member and a board member, second vice president on the League of Municipalities. And we're forming a subcommittee to start working on 2025, which is the next set of mandates that's going to be coming down the pike. So we'll have about 5 people on that committee, and we will work with our legislators to try and get it from the Superior Court back into the legislators' hands so that we have some mechanism, some means to be able to possibly build affordable housing where there are jobs and transportation. Because when you move to Florham Park, let's face it, if you don't have two cars as a family, you can't get around.
No, you can't.
If you're in Sun Valley on Passaic Avenue, we were talking to a woman on a Zoom call this past winter who said, I've never met you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I said, I'm everywhere. I'm all over. Well, I live all the way down here on Passaic Avenue, and we can't get there.
Right.
Well, that's a problem to me. I think that's sad that this woman didn't know me till these Zoom calls. So,
Right.
But that being said, we're doing our best to work on the problem, get ready for 2025, and expect whatever was supposed to be built from 2015 to get built, because we still have many projects that are waiting in the wings.
It's so complicated. And I think one of the themes of today is the decisions you make today is what you live with tomorrow, right? Consequences. And so, Charlie, how important is it to have leadership like this that fully understands the issue, that understands the implications of whatever decisions are made either in the courts or by the council, in order to protect the future for all the residents? How important is that?
It's very important to have experienced leadership. And as Mark has alluded to, he's worked really hard at this, and he's very passionate about it. As he stated, it's not the affordable housing part that's the problem. The growth that's forced upon us from the affordable housing in a town of 12,400 to be forced to have, what, Mark, 8,000 beds?
8,000 new beds.
8,000 new beds. That's significant growth for a small town. It forces us to burst at the seams.
Right, which changes everything for everyone. So we've talked about a lot of things, guys. So many issues. You have such depth. I'm sure there are things we haven't touched on. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think it's a service to everyone in Florham Park to be able to listen to this interview and understand how challenging it is to run this town, but also what an amazing effort it's been over the past few years. So I want each of you to finish really by just restating what is most important for you to get across to your fellow residents, and just leave them with a last message as they go to the polls on June 6th or are filling out ballots already. Charlie, we'll start with you.
I think we have a very good story to tell. I think at some level, I'm happy to see Republican opponents, because it forces us to bring the story forward and tell the good story. I'm glad to see rejuvenation within the Republican Party. That remains strong here in Florham Park. Again, Florham Park is a great place to live. This is a very positive story. The fact that we're not talking about some very serious depth issues, we're talking about things from a positive perspective.
Yeah.
We have opportunity. We have opportunity to do more. Other towns are in much dire straits, right? We're coming at this from a favorable advantage. And I really don't see why the opposition is choosing to throw stones at us at this point.
Mark?
So speaking of stones, I just want to dispel one other rumor. I've been seeing on Facebook that, the Jets, the New York Jets, who are located here in Florham Park. By the way, I was on the committee that first bring them to Florham Park. They gave money to Mayor Mark Taylor to give to the borough of Florham Park to rejuvenate our fields. And Mark declined to take that and send it to Madison instead. That is absolutely not true. The Jets have been very, very good partners with the borough of Florham Park. They gave us 3 Play 60s from the NFL, which are enhancements to our ball fields and to our walking areas around our parks. They also came to us in a time of need. We had built the field house on the new Volunteers Park, and we had to throw the contractor off who built the field house because he messed up. The NFL and the Jets came through with $225,000 and helped us to finish that up.
Wow.
So I think that's a rumor that's got to stop. I'm tired of hearing it. I would never, ever disparage the Jets and or our citizens by not taking a donation that was brought over to us for that. With that said, I love our community. I'm its biggest fan, I have to say. I think I've done a great job of navigating us both during the pandemic with the help of many, doing a lot of great things with our finances, working at the planning board level to bring great businesses and things to our community that matter, and get us on the map. It's nice to see on Channel 2 News after a win Florham Park, New Jersey, New York Jets. I like that a lot. I think that's a great slug. At the same time, I think that I have things to do yet. We have projects that we have to work on, and we have things we have to fight against, unfortunately. And I think you need experience at the helm to be able to bring those forward, itemize them, work through them, and make a difference for the rest of the borough and all of its residents, not just a few.
Absolutely. Well, experience matters, and there's nothing wrong with competition. Both of you are intense hard workers. It's the American way to compete. However, there's a lot wrong with mistruths, misinformation, and outright lies. So to the people of Florham Park, the good people of Florham Park, it's so important before you make your decision that you have the right information, that you understand who these people really are, what they've accomplished, and their point of view as it relates to Florham Park. And by the way, how has your life been in Florham Park? I think that's an important thing to measure. Change is not always good, but change that brings you to the next level is what's great. And Mayor, to your point, there's always something new to accomplish. There's always something new that you're facing, and leadership that has experience matters. So thank you to both of you. To everyone, again, June 6th, Tuesday, June 6th is the primary. That's when you'll make your decision of who is running in the fall. And if you've already received a ballot, you have a chance to fill those out now, but definitely vote. Don't not show up. Your voice needs to be heard. Seek out as much information as you can. And I know both of you will answer your phone. So if you want to give out either emails, cell phones, whatever you want to give out, Mayor, do you want to give something to the people?
Love to. My cell phone number is 973-477-1615. And my email is mtaylor@Florham Park, fpborough.net.
Great. And Charlie?
My email is councilmanmalonefp@gmail.com.
Great. Okay, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate both of you. And we'll be watching on June 6th. Hopefully
Thanks so much.
everything turns out as it should. Thank you so much.
All good.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye-bye,
day.
guys.